The Election Commission of Bangladesh is preparing for the upcoming 13th national parliamentary election and referendum. To make the process transparent and trustworthy, observers from 26 countries and 7 international organizations have been invited. Among them, the European Union is one of the most important. Today, we are speaking with the chief observer of the EU Election Observation Mission. I am Afrin Jahan and you are watching BTV News. Today we are honored to have the chief of the European Union Election Observation Mission, Mr. Evert Ijafs. Thank you for joining us, sir. Welcome to BTV News. We are delighted to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
To begin with, how would you elaborate the overall preparations for the upcoming election in Bangladesh?
Well, since we arrived just recently, my main point from the first meetings and first assessment is that there is a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of expectation and a lot of positive feeling to have a very credible participatory election on the 12th of the February, which is, I think, the most important thing. As for the preparations, we will be constantly observing what's going on all levels because we are really working with the Central Electoral Committee, but also with NGOs, political parties, and we are hoping and they are expecting that these expectations of the Bangladeshi citizens will be fulfilled.
What do you think? Which are the main challenges here for the upcoming election?
Well, first of all, as for every democratic election, the main issue is, of course, to have a level playing field, meaning that all the participants have equal chance to participate, to talk to the Bangladeshi citizens, to participate in the elections, including those social groups that have been sometimes not in the center of the public life, including women, for example, including ethnic minorities. And this is a big challenge everywhere for each and every democratic election, but I think for the Bangladesh it's the same. And as for your particular case, we all know that, well, Bangladesh hasn't had credible competitive elections for 16 or something years. And that means that, well, some things have changed during these years, meaning that, first of all, there is a new generation we are expecting, and you are expecting also the participation of young voters who will be voting for the first time, which is a challenge to accommodate them. But also the media landscape has changed during these last 16 years, especially, of course, with the social media coming in that are also impacting elections everywhere. In that sense, I think that the challenges are more or less similar all over the world.
How important is impartial observation for strengthening democracy in Bangladesh?
Well, this is an internationally approved methodology, how it's done. I mean, we are, first of all, not players in that cricket game, we are observers. We are, well, our main evaluations and recommendations will come only after the elections. We want to be, well, I don't think that this would be in a Bangladeshi interest that any outside actor, be it EU, be it everyone else, would get into this political game, because this is really for the Bangladeshi citizens to decide, but we are observing the process, how participatory it is, and of course also the very voting on the 12th of February, which is at the center of this, and that's why, for example, voter registration, we know that also the candidate registration, we are seeing closely what's happening in the Central Electoral Committee. Now, these are the issues that we will be observing, but again, there is an internationally improved methodology. Why do we send an observation mission to Bangladesh this year? First of all, because this is an important election for Bangladesh, and secondly, let's be frank, Bangladesh is a very important partner for the EU, especially looking what's happening in the world right now. With this turbulence we have all around, we need reliable, predictable, democratic partners in this region, especially taking into account that there is a lot of economic potential in working with Bangladesh.
Sir, what role do you see for technology and transparency measures in ensuring a smooth and credible election?
Well, technology is, of course, the big thing. We say that, well, for example, social media has changed the informational landscape. And first of all, there is a lot of positive potential, which means that, well, each and every citizen can become a journalist and have its say in the process. On the other hand, of course, we all know that this new technology is being misused, especially in terms of artificial intelligence, in order to manipulate, in order to have those fake news. This dilemma hasn't been solved anywhere. In the EU, we are struggling with the same thing. How do we deal with social networks and their impact on politics? But this is, of course, right now also at the center of the public debate here. And from that perspective, I think that later on we will come to international solutions. How do we combat fake news on those global platforms? But now, of course, what is important is to provide credible journalism, credible news that are really trusted by the citizens against this wave of misinformation and fake news which is coming all over the world.
How does the European Union view the role of media in covering the 2026 election, and what importance does media freedom hold in ensuring a credible process?
Well, media freedom is one of the basic principles of democracy, because democracy, this is very much about, well, when it comes from the ancient Greece, where the very word democracy comes from, it's very much about people are fighting each other not with violent means, but by words, by opinions, by ideas. And this is what we are also preserving in our democratic societies, that there is free speech and people can really express their political views. And as for the media, we all know that, well, media have been on the transformation. We have, of course, legacy media. I think that the role of public media is increasingly important for all democratic societies, because we all know that you can't just rely on private media outlets in order to get credible information always. This is a point, and also, just as I said, the social media that have to be regulated in order to provide people with different points of view. But again, this is, of course, the crucial thing, because this is, well, what we usually say in the basic political science classes. Democracy, this is not just about the voting. Democracy is also about much more, including your free expression and this free contest of ideas in the public sphere.
What measures does the EU consider important for the media to address misinformation or disinformation ahead of the election?
As for misinformation and disinformation, of course, there have to be a robust policy framework. How do you deal with that, especially dealing with those platforms that are usually not located in our countries? Well, we all know that platforms like, well, Metas or TikToks and things like that, they are neither in EU and nor in Bangladesh, and that means that you have to deal with those platforms, because of course they have to be put into certain framework. Important is, of course, to have the local fact checkers, those people who are really addressing the fake news and treating them accordingly, because civil society is right now largely developing in the internet. You have on the one side those who really want to manipulate the public opinion, but you should also have the other part, those people who really want to preserve this free and objective media space. And in that sense, I think that also in Bangladesh you have this public participation in dealing with fake news.
How is the European Union viewing the influence of social media on public perception during the election period?
Again, I think that we should come to some kind of international global agreement. How do we deal with that? EU is our policies with the so-called Digital Services Act. and Artificial Intelligence Act, we have been trying to put forward certain initiatives. How do we regulate, for example, hate speech, fake news, things like that, also the massive use of artificial intelligence in the social networks in order to make an impact on the political opinions. As right now, the EU is still working on that, but our ambition is that later on we should put this framework as a global framework, because we just can't preserve democracy if the social media are doing whatever they want.
Sir, the European Union has been observing election in Bangladesh since in the year of 2000. How does the EU view in the 2026 national election within this long-standing engagement?
Well, first of all, we all know that 2024 has been a watershed in the Bangladeshi history, and we've been really observing the processes very closely. We have been observing also the actions of the interim government with Professor Yunus, how it has been moving towards those elections, and the fact that these elections are coming and will be conducted hopefully in a very peaceful and in a very credible manner is of course of great interest for us. Why? Because again, we see Bangladesh as an important partner in the region, and that's why, of course, we are also looking forward to the new government, whoever wins the election, continuing to work with us also in concluding the partnership and cooperation agreement, which would promote investment, which is, I think, win-win situation for both sides. And from that perspective, what we are really looking forward to see is a good and credible and participatory expression of the Bangladeshis' will in their elections, in those democratic institutions, with a new parliament, with a new government, which would be then representing Bangladesh's will in dealing with all the global issues, also in cooperating with us, tackling issues like climate change, tackling issues like, of course, technological change we have been talking about a lot. In that sense, we are really taking this seriously, and that's why this is also a very big responsibility for me and for my team here, which will be constantly here and observing those elections and also what's happening after the elections in order to move forward, because we shouldn't be expecting any miracles from democratic process, but what we should really see is that democracy still works in a sense of expressing the citizens' will in a proper, in a just way in order to move the country forward.
What recommendations would you suggest for the upcoming election in Bangladesh?
The first of all, our real recommendations and our real suggestions for the policy will come only after the elections have taken place, and in that sense we should actually wait until that moment, because then it's going to be fact-based, because we are observing very closely what's happening. But as for the suggestions right now, first of all, we are observing the elections according to your own legislation, what is the Bangladeshi legislation, and in that sense, of course, this is the standard we are looking at, not from some kind of well-invented standards, but from your legislation's point of view. But as for the Bangladeshi citizens, my suggestion is just to take part in those elections, because this is really this democratic opportunity, which many countries don't have, to really take part in that election, to express your free choice regarding the future of your country and of your own life. And in that sense, I think that we, both in Europe and in Bangladesh, should appreciate more that opportunity we have and to use it.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We are honored to have you with us to discuss the European Union's observation on Bangladesh's upcoming election. We appreciate the European Union continued engagement with Bangladesh democratic process. Thank you so much.
Well, I wish all the best for the Bangladesh television and also the the fact-based, objective coverage of the upcoming election.
Thank you so much.